everyone, it's Kerry back with you today. So I'm playing along again today for ABC April 2025, which is a collab hosted by Tony and Margaret. I will leave links to both the ladies' channels in the description box below. You can pop over to their channels and find out all the information. There are links to their Ko-fi site where you can download the calendar and also the prompts list. But we are on the 5th of April here in Australia, which is E. On the prompts list, the ladies suggested things like ephemera, embellishment, envelope, entomology and embossing. And I have decided to create an easy envelope accordion journal. Now here's a little one that I have started. And it's just created using envelopes as the base. It is extremely easy to put together. And you can make it any size that you like based on the envelopes that you choose. So if you have, large envelopes, it's obviously going to be a larger journal. And if you have smaller envelopes, it will be a smaller journal. So I have got some envelopes here. These are just little ones. I had used the same size for this journal, but I had tea-dyed these ones beforehand. These ones are just plain white. Now, it doesn't matter the shape of the envelopes. If you want to use square envelopes, it will just mean that your finished journal will be the shape of the envelope that you use. And if you want to use something like coin envelopes where the flap is on the end, then again it would just mean that your journal would be more of a landscape orientation rather than a profile orientation. So I've got about 8 envelopes here, I think, and I have them to begin with all of the flaps facing upwards, and at the moment they're all on the left hand side. But what I want to do is collate them so that I have one on the left and then one on the right. Oops, like that. So then adding another one to the left and another one to the right. And I just keep going until I've added as many envelopes as I would like. And each envelope adds an extra page to the journal. Okay, so there we go. Now, if you wanted to slice the tops open here on these envelopes to give you pockets and that sort of thing, you would need to do that before you glue everything down and cover it with paper. I think it would be a bit more challenging to do it afterwards, but for today we're just going to have a fairly stock standard accordion style journal. So now I want to glue these flaps down, so I'm going to take the first envelope out and I'm just going to glue this flap closed because we don't have any additional pages to add. So I'm just gluing that one closed and then I'm going to pop that back in there. Now I'm right-handed, so I'm going to prefer gluing with my right hand. If you're left-handed, you might want to do it the other way around. But then I'm just going to rotate my journal so I have this open flap on the right-hand side. And I'm going to make sure that all of my envelopes are knocked up square, nothing's poking out weirdly. And then I'm just going to open the flap and apply a little bit of glue. And then close the flap, rotate my journal, open my next page, open the flap, apply some glue, close, and then I'm just going to repeat that rotating and then finding my next flap until I have glued down all of the flaps. So obviously as you glue down more flaps, you're going to have to flip through more pages to find the next flap that isn't glued down. Now because I would be covering my pages, I'm not worried about gluing right to the edges, but if you're not going to be covering your pages, you might want to glue a little bit more closely to the edges to make sure that everything stays where it's supposed to. And the other thing that you want to just be mindful of is that your journal remains square in terms of all the papers are firmly pushed up against each other, nothing's sticking too far out and nothing's overlapping too much. Otherwise, so for example, with this one, if my page wasn't flush up against this next envelope here, if my crease wasn't pushed up firmly and I glued it a little bit out of whack, when I close my journal, that would be sticking out and it would be too short on this side, which means over time I would have my journal on a really weird angle. And similarly, if you have this envelope too far over, when you go to try to glue this flap, it's not going to easily close. So you just want to make sure that all of your envelopes are nicely nestled into each other so that you've got nice straight edges and nothing is too far in or too far out. So looking for my next loose flap. If I glued that one, yep, I've already done that one. So I've got this one. Close and rotate. I think this might be the last one, possibly. Close and rotate and double checking. Yep, so now when we open it out, we should have an accordion journal ready for us to decorate. So now we have the base of our accordion journal, and you can decorate it however you like. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a little bit of decorating on this one. I'm going to get it started using some of Renee's digis and also just some scraps from my scraps box. I'll probably speed it up because there won't really be much to tell you about it. So let's begin. Okay, so I've just done some basic decorating, given it a bit of a cover and some pages on the inside ready to be decorated further. So I'll just briefly let you know what I did. So first of all, I just inked around the edges of the envelopes and in between, just so the stark white wouldn't show through the edges of the pages. I then added some vintage music paper and some digital printed invoices to the pages, and went over those with gesso just to sort of blend everything into the background and give it that sort of same cohesive look throughout. And then I've just decorated the front here with some lace scraps, one of Renee's lovely digi images, a little bulb pin here, a little rusty pin with some sari silk, a label, and just some old falling apart pianola paper there. So I think they turn out super cute and they're really quick to put together. So that is my easy envelope accordion journal. I hope you will give them a go, and I will leave links in the description box below to both Margaret and Tony's channels so you can follow along with the ABC April 2025 collab. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you again next time. Bye.